acknowledged and expressed clearly and precisely the turbulence she was experiencing. Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. Surely he could say the same thing about us right now. How heavily the worries and anxieties of life weigh upon us. Something within us makes us think we need to solve them all right away, and everyone around us should come to our aid. The voice of the Lord reaches out to us amid the noise of our self-absorption and invites us to release the tangle of worries that paralyzes our hearts. Only one thing is necessary: to stay close to the Lord, to listen to him, to trust him, to do all things joyfully for him. Somehow Martha's good and loving desire to serve Jesus and his disciples had lost its purity and so lost its joyfulness. The same thing happens to us. We want to do good things. We want to build up Christ's kingdom. We want to fulfill the duties of our state in life. But as we engage in all our activity, we tend to lose sight of the real reason behind everything: simply to love God and love our neighbor. Whenever our loving work becomes a joyless burden, we need to do exactly what Martha did: burst in on Jesus, unburden our hearts, and listen carefully to what he has to say to us.
St. Faustina's Wisdom. Today is the optional liturgical memorial of St. Faustina Kozłowska, famous for her diary called Divine Mercy in My Soul. A Polish nun who lived during the first decades of the 20th century, St. Faustina was privileged to receive visions and locutions from the Lord, through which Jesus wanted to give the church and the world a remarkable and long-standing reminder of the power and the vastness of his redeeming mercy. The diary contains many of St. Faustina's dialogues with Jesus, but it also contains narrations and descriptions of her own spiritual journey. Reading the diary straight through, one can't help but being struck by the difficulties and sufferings involved in the saints learning to trust Jesus more and more. Even after having received so many extraordinary graces, St. Faustina continually needed to follow in Martha's footsteps, entering into Christ's presence with her anxieties, worries, complaints, confusions, seeking counsel and relief. We can take comfort in that because we too identify very easily with St. Martha, who was burdened with much serving and who was anxious and worried about many things. We too need constant reminders that only one thing is necessary, and constant encouragement to choose the better part. Perhaps we can follow St. Faustina's example and make over and over again the following resolution: I will not allow myself to be so absorbed in the whirlwind of work as to forget about God. I will spend my free moments at the feet of the Master, hidden in the Blessed Sacrament.
True God and true man. Every Sunday we pray the Creed and we publicly profess our faith in Jesus Christ as God from God, light from light, true God from true God, who was incarnate of the Virgin Mary and became man. Why would God, an all-powerful creator of the universe, become man? Why would he lower himself to the point that he could be sitting in Martha's living room and getting involved in a squabble between sisters? Isn't that kind of thing below the dignity of God? Maybe if you think of God in some other way, it would be. But the one true God who has revealed himself in Jesus Christ clearly shows us that our most normal human experiences, even a squabble between sisters, even the impertinent outburst flowing from stress and worry, is meant to be a place of grace, a space to encounter and embrace Jesus in a new and enriching way. Jesus speaks directly to Martha's complaint and points out a truth that we can live by. Jesus was so close to Martha and Mary that Mary felt comfortable in sitting at his feet as he spoke in the living room, and Martha felt comfortable complaining and bringing him right into the nitty-gritty of their family affairs. Is Jesus that close to me? Am I that real in my conversations with him? Or do I feel as if I have to put some kind of show and hide my true self from the Lord? To what extent has Jesus truly become incarnate in my life?
Conversing with Christ. Lord, when we picture you responding to Martha's complaint, we picture you smiling. You know how weak we are and how petty we can become when we feel stressed out. We want to learn to go to you as soon as we lose our interior peace, as soon as we lose our spiritual balance. We want to learn and see your smile and hear your gentle corrections and guidance. We want to learn to be content and joyfully satisfied with the one thing necessary, and to choose every single day, every single moment of our lives, better for Saint Faustina.
Before we do the unity prayer, let's just call to mind those who are suffering the atrocities of war, both in Ukraine, Israel, and throughout the world. We just pray for God's intercession, pray for peace and justice, and end to all conflict. Pray that God will comfort those who are suffering the atrocities of war, that He would bring healing. My adorable Jesus,
May our feet journey together, may our hands gather in unity, may our hearts beat in unison, may our souls be in harmony, may our thoughts be as one, may our ears listen with gladness together, may our glances profoundly penetrate each other, may our lips pray together, in mercy from our Father.
Amen.
Okay, we'll go on to the land acknowledgement.
Before we begin, the Medicine Hat Catholic Board of Education would like to acknowledge that we are gathering on the traditional land of the Blackfoot people who have welcomed here for centuries the Cree, the Métis, other First Nations, and non-Indigenous people. The land is now recognized as the traditional territory of Treaty 7 to the northwest and south, and Treaty 4 to the east. The Medicine Hat Catholic Board of Education also wishes to thank the First Nations people, past and present, for welcoming us here.
Okay, we'll do the organizational meeting. Secretary Treasurer will chair this meeting.
Simple power. So, thank you. The first item that we'll be looking at is the agenda. Recommended motion is that the Board of Trustees for the Medicine Hat Catholic Board of Education approve the organizational meeting dated October 10th, 2023 to be approved as circulated. Can we have a motion on that?
Also,
Mr. Trustee Kinch has made the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. The agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is the election of the officers. The nominations are now in order for the office of board chair. May I have any nominations? Mr. Trustee Leahy?
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Glasgow as board chair, please.
Thank you. Trustee Glasgow, do you accept the nomination?
Unless somebody else wants it. Yes.
Yes. Are there any other nominations for the position of board chair? Hearing none, I would like to get a motion to close nominations. All those in favor? Nominations are closed. Trustee Glasgow is appointed board chair by acclamation.
Bravo.
The next item is for nomination of vice chair. So nominations are now in order. Trustee Glasgow?
Nominate Deacon Robert.
Deacon Robert, do you accept the nomination?
Oh, what's up, Joe?
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to close nominations for the position of vice chair.
Also moved.
Thank you, Trustee Kinch. All those in favor of closing nominations? Carried. Deacon Robert, you're vice chair by acclamation. Congratulations.
That's all for it.
That concludes my 30 seconds of power. So.
Okay, thank you, Greg. All right, committee appointments, they'll just all stay the same. Can I do that in a blanket? Gotcha. Board representatives, that will stay the same as well. Signing authority will stay the same as well, or do we have to have a motion on that?
No, given that there's no changes,
Just
motion's
it's
required.
good, okay. Regular board meetings, I think they're at a good time. Any objections to when they are? I think it's easier just to leave it the way it is. Okay, we'll keep that the same too. So we don't.
We should have a vote on
Yeah, we
that.
should have a vote.
Yes.
Okay, can I get somebody to move that?
I'll make it.
Robert? So they will be held on Tuesday,
The second Tuesday
second Tuesday of the month
at 4:30.
at 4:30. Oh, that's committee of the whole is,
Sorry,
committee of the whole is 2:45, right?
correct.
And the regular board meeting will be 4:30, like it is now. The meetings are held at the Catholic School Board office unless otherwise determined. That's what we're voting on. All in favor? And conflict of interest disclosure, we have to do that again?
We will provide those documents to the trustees and
Okay.
if you could provide them back to me. That would be
Okay.
excellent.
That's the thing where your family isn't doing all this. Yep.
You have a date for that, Greg? We can just put it in the minute, or wait, you want them back?
I'll send it out by email with the timelines.
All right, so we will leave the organizational meeting then, we'll adjourn. And we will call to order the public meeting at 4:38. Did pretty good. Okay, approval of the minutes. Everybody have a chance to look at them? Have someone approve the minutes?
I will so
Okay,
This is your day, trustee.
yeah. All in favor? Okay. And approval of the agenda as circulated. Robert? All in favor? Okay. Board communications, we don't have anything. Catholic education, school parish relations. Deacon Robert?
We have a organizational meeting coming up soon. When is that?
Next week.
Next week. Yeah. So there's nothing to report other than that.
Okay. And student and staff retreat opportunities. Heather?
Board is attached, happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? I looked at that. Just
Okay.
Mr. Leahy?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. You know, when I'm out in the community, it's the comments from people about religious education and the level of faithfulness that we see from our students, or they perceive that we see from our students, is usually glass half full or glass half empty. My experience is that when you get into the schools, and especially when you go to masses with students and so on, our faith is much richer in our schools than people think. And that's my way of commending Mrs. Irvin for the excellent job she's doing and putting together these retreat opportunities for our students and staff. So thank you very much, Heather.
Go ahead.
And if I can just share, and it's not about what I'm doing, it's about how hungry the kids are to be part of this. So we started the Student Faith Leadership Program last year, and I said send 5 to 10 kids from each school, and I had one of our junior highs, the teacher emailed and said, I have 29 students who want to be involved in Student Faith Leadership this year. So I think that's just showing that they're excited and they want to get involved. So
Good.
we're really happy about that.
And that's how we get kids in our church. Give them a job there. Give them something to do.
I have a question.
Sure.
Could you introduce us to Chris Bray?
So we had him 2 years ago as our speaker. So he is a Catholic speaker from Ontario. He plays guitar, he tells stories, he's very staunch Catholic, but very approachable for kids and for teachers.
So this is his ministry kind of?
Yes.
Okay.
I would just like to share that I have 2 little great nephews that have switched from public to Catholic, and they're at St. Francis, and they were so excited to go to Mass. They've never been. I'm not proud of that, but they've never been. And they were so excited, they couldn't wait to get home and tell their mom and dad about Mass. The only thing was it was 3 hours, but they included having to walk to St. Pat's and having to walk home and to walk back. But they are just beside themselves at a Catholic school. So thank you. Thank us for being there. Okay, that's everything, Heather?
Yes.
Okay, board work plan, staffing updates, Mr. Gale.
Thank you, Chair. Just a follow-up from last meeting. Last meeting we discussed that we had added 2.4 FTE, 3 different locations, or total of 2.4 FTE. At this time, that seems to have satisfied all of our pressure points that we're looking at. Also, for your information, I've just included one of our teaching complements as one of the attachments about how many FTE are located in each of our locations, and a breakdown between full-time and part-time. So this year we're employing 157 teachers, 138 of those folks are full-time, and 19 of those folks are part-time assignments. Are there any questions?
So we don't have any raping classes or anything like that?
So we have.
Are we approaching that anywhere?
We've met all of our needs.
Okay.
So the additional staff that we had added in those locations, we were looking at classes in grade 1, for example, of 27, which are now down to 21, 22, 23. And the one class we had split up at St. Francis, they were looking at a split of 33, and that's now reduced down to 26.
Yeah.
26.
Good.
Trustee Lee has a question.
David?
Madam Chair, through the chair to Mr. Gale. So I'm having a little trouble hearing, but are there any? So I thought I picked up that we've pretty satisfied that we've helped any hotspots with large class sizes. Are there any large splits, especially in the early elementary grades that are, let's say, 26, 27, 28, even in that area?
So there is a class in one of our schools that we're keeping an eye on right now, just to see what the needs are going to be like and moving forward as the year progresses. We spoke with that principal last week. He'd be looking for a very minimal bump, like a 0.1 or 0.2 FTE, something along those lines, but we're going to continue to work with them on that if we feel there's a need to change that.
Any other questions for Mr. Gill? Thank you. Boundary review. Mr. McPherson.
Thank you. So the Board of Trustees in their work plan has the boundary review to commence in October. Administration will assess the situation and bring any recommendations to the Board of Trustees in the January 24 board meeting for changes to boundaries. At this point, there's been no request for any adjustments to the school attendance areas or the boundaries. And we did provide a map and descriptions of what the boundaries for each of our schools are, just for reference.
So people moving in and out of neighborhoods hasn't changed anything then, or it's just kind
We
of?
feel with the school capacity, with the exception of Notre Dame Academy, we were able to accommodate
Perfect.
everyone.
Good. Thanks, Greg. School council financial statements, Mr. McPherson.
Thank you. Again, as part of the Board of Trustees work plan and in accordance with policy 17, school councils are required to provide a statement of their financial position as well as copies of their minutes. At this point in time, not all information has been fully received, and we expect to have that completed for the November 23 board meeting. So it's just to identify it's on the board work plan and it will be available in November.
And then when I read this, it had the societies as well, right? So,
Yes.
So that would be like Friends of McCoy,
Correct.
that's separate from the council.
Correct.
Does anybody else have that? Or is McCoy the only one that has the society?
Well, yes, all the schools, I think, except for St. Louis have a society attached to.
So that's okay.
So it's the fund.
Yeah, the fundraising part of it.
One
Yeah.
Senior McCoy has, I believe, 2 or 3 societies attached to it. St. Mary's, I believe, has 2 societies attached to it.
But they report as well, right?
We're asking for that
Yeah.
information, yes.
Good. Okay, communication plan, Mrs. Hollis.
Attached, you'll see the 2023-2024 communications work plan. This just outlines every month what we plan on highlighting, video projects we plan on working on, dates for special events, etc. I think that's up for your approval. Anyone has any questions?
Anybody have any questions for, go ahead, Mr. Beatty.
This is a very impressive plan, Mrs. Hallis and administration. And I'm a little worried that, is this more than a 0.5? Yeah, this is a lot of work. And sometimes the extra becomes the expected. So I'm just, I hope we have the resources to meet all this. And also I want to say once again that, well, it's a very intensive plan and very impressive. And I want to thank you, Darian, for your work.
Thank you. I think we'll get her done.
Anybody else? Mr. Mescal?
Thanks, Chair. To Darian, is there a place on this work plan where we're going to meet with our MLAs?
That's on the board work plan.
That's on the board work plan.
The board work plan, yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
Okay, so I don't see any more. Does anybody want to move this? Deacon Robert, all in favor? To accept, thank you. Okay, information items, strategic priorities update, Dr. Zwicky.
So Chelsea is going to call up a PowerPoint for me, and the trustees that are at home, I believe, Chelsea, you emailed them that PowerPoint as well?
Yes, I scheduled it to email and it came out during prayer. And I apologize. I thought prayer would be done. I don't want you guys to think Greg pointed out that I worked. It was scheduled. It was a terrible timing. Anyways, okay. So you guys should have it on your computers if you want to view it there.
So one of the discussions last year was that the board would like in the update that something that would be a bit more graphic in nature, just to show levels of completion. And so we've been working on different ideas. And what we found is that to use, I guess for lack of a better word, the widgets that some of the other school divisions use to graphically represent completion is somewhat complicated, but more importantly, relatively expensive. So it's in the tunes of thousands of dollars. And so we didn't think that that'd be a great place to necessarily spend money on our website. So what we did is we came up with this idea to show trustees to sort of see what you think about it. And if you like the idea, then we'll keep working on the deployment of it. This would primarily be, of course, shared as part of your board package. So if you like this method, it's not really an issue to do with that. The struggle that we're having is how we would upload it to our website. So alternatively, we could theoretically, have it emailed out to parents or something like that as an update. But in any event, so so rather than just having the list of our goals and then the strategies to get the goals, we came up with this idea where basically the information that's on that page remains the same in terms of the goal and the activities. Here is the update that we would give monthly, and then this reader adjusts every month to show how much completion has taken place towards that specific goal. So if you sort of keep an eye on where that dial is there, we move to the next one, we can see here that this one's not as, it's not as far down the road as we'd like. One of the things too that I like about this one is it does really split the goals out independently of the list so that you can see specifically what the activities were that month related to that goal, as opposed to right now we have all the goals and then at the bottom we have an update. And so you might have to sort of figure out a little bit in your own mind where some of the activities belong in relation to those goals. And so this one here, we've got the committee done. Student faith leadership is organized, and we're in our second year. We're a little weak on our grace commitment, so we're not quite over the finish line. The same thing with health and wellness. We've got all of our committees work there, so they basically now just sort of have to finish implementing their plan, but most of that's already underway. This one, there wasn't much of an update for the month, but with respect to the overall goal, it kind of gives you an idea with that dial of where we are. Quality teaching and learning, so that's the training and resources that we have in the division and where we are. So we're starting with the professional development portion. Same thing with this one. We've got everything in place now. We just need to execute. And then this is the area that Hugh has implemented. So we've implemented the new approach, and now we're working on it and tweaking and fixing. So we're not over the finish line, but with respect to that goal, we've done a fairly significant chunk on it. And then this is our new school building project. So you see, we're just barely begun with that. And then the final piece there would be the link that gives you the year-to-date, the regular document that we've been using. So I guess first blush, is that something that you folks like, or is it useful, or?
I think it's,
I like it. I'm a visual person, so what evidence do you give to determine where that goal is?
Well, it would be.
Is it on the document itself? Or?
Well, it would be on there. It's the year-to-date report, so it gives you from September every month, and we just go back into that list, just doing it that.
Okay.
Yeah, but with respect then to where each goal is, it still sort of gives you an idea of where we think we are.
Okay,
with it.
sure. I like it.
Mr. Lee, or Leahy?
I like it as well. It's very visual. The only thing I don't know if it's possible to change if you could have each of the classifications that we're working on and then the goal subsequently. If you could have a broad title across the top, so that would change from goal 1 and 2 to 3. We can always identify. At the very top,
Like with the
Those are
priority.
priorities.
yeah, so like a title saying, oh, okay, it's at priority 4 there. All right, I wouldn't say
Yeah, and then the other ones, so the priority stays consistent, and
Okay.
it's just the goals that change on the side.
my bad, sorry.
So if the board likes that approach, then we'll continue, by we, I mean Chelsea and Derry, and how we're gonna share it on the website. But, that,
We're just trying to get the technicality of dial moving, but we're getting there.
we had to actually create the dial ourselves, and so that's the part that we're having a problem with, now that we made it ourselves. It doesn't transfer to Google very well, so. But we didn't want to really spend any time with the website developers until we knew that the board was happy with this approach.
Good.
Would it be easier just to do like a thermometer or something, like a racing, or just like the visual?
This one, it took a while to design this, but now we can input a value to indicate how much completion we are. Now, the thermometer, I think we sort of just have to do it manually, to fill in the blocks, so.
As long as this idea and concept is what you guys are interested in, then
Yeah.
we'll mess around with it a little bit more, because I want to kind of put it into Canva. PowerPoint's great if you email it out, but PowerPoint doesn't live on our web or live in Google Drive very well, so. Yeah, so if you guys are good with this, then we'll kind of continue to
I think the
do something
principle,
of this
you
nature.
know, having a visual, it doesn't have to be, whatever's easier.
Fine tune it for next month.
Okay, David or Dick, do you guys have anything to say?
With regard to this plan,
Yes,
no, I'm in favor.
good.
I made a comment on the thing saying it was good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We can't see it because we're still seeing the PowerPoint, so. Great, thanks, guys. All right, we will move on to the Leadership Enhancement Program. Mr. Gill.
Thank you, Chair. As a follow-up to last month's meeting, during the last month's meeting, we were taking applications for our first induction into the Leadership Enhancement Program. I just wanted to report back, we've received 12 applicants to our program this year. Exceptional group of educators in our buildings. I was very impressed with the quality of candidates that we've received. The first meeting that we're going to be having is going to be on October 26th. And we have another 6 meetings throughout this year and 7 meetings the year following. Of interest from those 12 accepted candidates into our program, 8 of them were female applicants. I know we're looking at starting a women leadership group as well. So I'm going to look at leveraging those 8 individuals as well and seeing what their needs may be. But very encouraged by the applicants. The materials that they submitted to us were extremely high quality. I was left with the impression we have a lot of lucky kids in our schools, that those are the people we have out there. So it was excellent feedback.
How much of this program is Catholic leadership?
So the very first session we're going to do is about leadership quality standards, and the second session is about leadership through a Catholic lens. So everything will be not unlike what we do in our schools. It will be through the lens of Catholic education.
Okay.
One of the documents that they'll use quite often is the marks of a Catholic leader.
Perfect. That 5 marks.
Yeah. if I may, Chair.
Yeah,
I just
go
wanted to thank Mr. Gale for putting this program together and his team. Last year at a board meeting, I believe it was Trustee Leahy that asked us what our plan was to develop future leaders. And so this is, I think Mr. Gale's done a great job of putting together that plan.
I think that's important. Like this division had this at one time, and then it sort of petered out, I guess.
Iterations
Yeah.
throughout, I've been in the division for coming on 20-ish years, and there's been different opportunities at different times.
Yeah.
Always a little bit of different flavor.
All right, 23-24 enrollment update, Mr. McPherson.
Thank you. So we have the preliminary enrollment from the September 29th count date. We currently have 2689.5 FTE within the division, which represents 24.5 FTE over what we had set for the budget. Of particular note, the K-12 is reporting 47 FTE, which is up from the budget. So part of the difference between the 24.5 FTE and the 47 FTE represents the PUF program. So those children don't become identified fully until December. So we currently have 98 children identified as part of PUF, and we expect an additional 45 children to be identified on or before the December PUF count date. With regards to the comparison to the prior year, we're 41 FTE higher than the prior year. With respect to K-12 exclusively, we're up 63.5 FTE. So that's showing a very positive trend for us, both from the budgetary side as well as our growth from year to year. At this point in time, the impact of the enrollment increase is an additional $160,000 using the weighted moving average model. Precise revenue impacts will be made after the September count date and once all the priority school conflicts have been resolved and all the other minor changes that need to be looked at. With regards to the impact of this within the projection, that will be provided as part of the first quarter update. I did provide the detailed analysis, both from the actual numbers to the budget, as well as the actual numbers to the prior year. And those numbers are identified on the attachments, and they're in a heat format. So you can see very precisely where there's increases and decreases in grade level by school.
We still had some from that grade 9 to grade 10. We had some left.
Yes, we did see a drop, and that's a historical trend. So.
Yeah, it's been there forever. Any questions of Greg? Go ahead.
Just as a final note, Mr. McPherson gave the FTE numbers. If we count just the number of students that we're serving this year, it comes up to 2,950. So it appears that Trustee Mestel's hat is safe for one more year.
Well, thanks.
These numbers do not include the international students. We look after those separately.
Oh,
So
and that's over 50, right?
these are the
That's over 50, right?
well, that would be part of
That's part of my overall count.
Oh, is it?
Trust me, anybody that had a heartbeat was counted for that.
Maybe we could
Just
enroll
looking at
some of the custodians or something. Okay, well, that sounds great, Greg. Thank you very much. Learning services update, Mr. Lair.
Thank you. I've thrown a lot of numbers at you, so I'll tell you what I got out of them. But it is October, so people usually start screaming around this time for more support needed. But with our change to the restructure, we've actually been able to add more support. You'll see our FTE for learning assistance is up. As usual, most of the learning assistants are in the K-3 area, you can see. We are noticing, though, if you look at the number of severe students, while it remains pretty stable, the number of coded kids seems to be trending down. yet we're finding the needs in the classroom seems to be more diverse, more difficult to deal with. So that's kind of the reason behind some of the training we're doing, the Parabyte training, introducing some collaborative structures in schools to deal with some of these issues, as well as adding our learning support teachers in every school is another benefit since the transition. Are there any questions on this data that bring to you?
Mr. Leahy?
Through the chair to Mr. Lair, thank you very much. I found this information you presented very worthwhile and interesting. If I may make a suggestion for the next time, so it was excellent. Just one thing, I was just out of my curiosity, I wouldn't mind seeing the percentage of the students that are being served by your department in comparison to the population of the school. So, you know, X school has this many students being serviced by your department and the population of the school is Y. So I just be curious to see that number in the future. Thank you very much.
To that, you will notice that as the number of coded students and severe students go up, the FTE follows. So we don't staff based on the population, but the needs presented in the building, just so you know, right?
Yeah, my curiosity is just, you know, from my experience, just seeing where trends are. And, you know, I've been in the district long enough to see that sometimes populations over the years shift in various schools. So, you know, you might see a school for a long time not have too many issues, and then because of changing dynamics and different real estate situations, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but over the course of 5, 7, 10 years, that school's population changes. I just find that kind of stuff interesting. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Lair? All right, thanks you. Communication report. Marian.
The report attached. I just highlighted our National Day of Reconciliation Orange Shirt Day 2-day event. Touched all nine schools. All nine schools were given the opportunity to come together to learn and experience Indigenous culture. There was from bannock making to round dances to a residential school survivor firsthand. It was seemed to be really impactful couple of days, and the feedback that I've heard on a personal level from students and parents of students was really well received. So that was kudos to the planning committee that kind of planned it before I got back. And then, yeah, I thought it was a really good day. So we highlighted that, some video on our Facebook you can check out, and then the analytics and the links to the news articles are in there as well.
Any comments or questions? I was able to attend the speaker, who is also a very good friend of mine. And it was amazing. Those kids were amazing. There was 2 junior high schools and a high school in that place. And you could have heard a pin drop. I don't know who else or what else could keep the attention of 2 junior high schools and a high school for an hour.
1,400.
And you
people in that building.
never, and then they just immediately stood up and gave a standing ovation. It was amazing. And I mean, like I said, she's a friend of mine, but she didn't speak any different on that stage than she would speak in the Empress Curling Rink. You know, like it just was like, she's just such a true spirit. She's beautiful, beautiful lady. So thank you very much. Like it was great. Anybody else? Anything for Darian? Thank you again for the whole time. All right, let's go on to our action and discussion items. The stained glass windows. Again. Stained glass windows. We need a motion. Yep.
Chair, I have a question.
Okay.
Last meeting, I asked where the money was coming from, and I know it was somewhat of a difficult meeting, but the answer at that time was, I don't know. Do we know today where that money's coming from?
Yes, so as per my follow-up email to the trustees in the weekly update, the $10,000 would be taken from the international ed building container portion of the revenue.
And the remainder?
That would be raised by our fundraiser.
And what is the payment schedule?
We have a $10,000 deposit and then payment upon completion.
Do we know when completion is going to be?
We've asked for the completion to be probably within the last 6 months of the building in the school, so that storage of those windows isn't an issue, but there'd be time to figure out how we're going to have them ready, so that whenever that becomes available, then the contractors would be able to handle it for us.
Right, and so, and the reason I'm asking that is because if we're having to pay this now based on funds to be raised, we haven't raised any funds. So we have a considerable amount of time, I guess. Okay, thank you.
But the $10,000 is there, right?
Yeah, in theory, we could pay for the windows in their entirety prior to the school being open instead of the international ed portion of the building funds. But
Okay, would somebody like to move this? Deacon Robert is moving the recommendation that the Board of Trustees of the Medicine Hat Catholic Board of Education approves the purchase of the 3 stained glass windows from Weissman Glassworks at a total cost of $51,000 for the new school building project. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? 1. Passed. Thank you. New school build. Dr. Zarichny.
yeah, so this motion is in reference to the notice of motion that took place the meeting in June, and this motion would complete our requirements with respect to approving the construction of the new building, as well as providing the final notice of closure of St. Mary's School and St. Michael's School upon completion of the building.
Okay, can I have somebody move that and then we'll have a discussion? Okay. Deacon Robert, and discussion, questions, go ahead.
Madam Chair, so I have several comments I'd like to make, and so I beg forgiveness of the board if they can just hear me out on this. I'll try and be quick. So one of my issues I have is the speed at which this began and the way it began. It wasn't something that was driven by the school board itself. It was made at the suggestion in a number of ways by the Minister of Education at the time. So it wasn't us that was really pushing this. It was pushed along very quickly because the offer of several $1 million was made. It was like, oh, that's very difficult to turn down. Really, this consolidation or super school project is really driven by the desire of the theater. While it has been suggested theater was piggybacked on the change rooms, really it's the theater that's driving the whole thing, not necessarily the change rooms. I'm also concerned that there's been a lack of consultation. We've had one general meeting where, by my count, and I suggested this at a meeting with the trustees and senior admin, that there were only 8 people in attendance other than 30 plus that were administration employees or school district employees. Additionally, my understanding is that Dr. Zarichny has made one visit to 3 schools involved, each of their parent councils. But I know from having been involved with parent council that they're generally not well attended. And you don't get attendance until the issue is really being pressed, and we haven't pressed the issue. We've sent some information out. Yes, there was a recent letter of our intentions, but I don't consider that consultation. I consider that more of a speaking point. We've had meetings of ourselves with the general comment being made, either you get on board, and this has been suggested to parents as well, that if you don't get on board, because it's going to happen anyway. I have concerns about the location. Likely, we're going to incur traffic issues because suddenly we're going to have two very large schools there. And it may take some configuring to resolve those traffic issues. Pardon me, again, I don't think that location was necessarily for the best reason. The only reason was chosen to be in that particular vicinity is because we want the theater for McCoy High School. Okay, and why couldn't we have used St. Michael's grounds if we're gonna knock down these three schools, or St. Mary's, or perhaps, as suggested in a letter from a past trustee who sent to all the trustees, perhaps Ranchlands. Okay. I have concerns about the size of the school and its proximity to our other largest school. This new school would be 350 new students, or 350 students larger than our present largest school, if it was at capacity. Also, that puts approximately 1,500 students within one city block of each other, which, if we're at capacity of those schools, would be half of our entire enrollment in our district. Okay, and that doesn't speak to the fact that there's another school around the corner. So again, we're looking at traffic issues. And again, the process, in my mind, was exceedingly quick. We haven't had the discussion, we haven't been able to contact, and when we have had presentations from Infrastructure Alberta Ed, it seems that all our communications, we seem to be offered less and less and less. Now, granted, mistakes initially, and those mistakes were corrected. Also, I take issue with being given artificial deadline to the middle of next month where we have to make a decision. Beyond being quick, now we're being pressured to make a decision. I don't think that's reasonable because again, we'll go back and say we need more consultation. I'm concerned that we're having to rely on fundraising, but that fundraising needs to be in place prior to our decision being made. And our gym size is not what we had been initially instructed or told it would become. I'm not concerned. It doesn't bother me if we're moved back in the queue, as was mentioned in one of our video meetings. And it doesn't necessarily concern me if it, worst case scenario, means we're going to get canceled. Okay, but I think it was suggested that we'd be moved back in the queue and it would delay things a little bit. Also, I'm concerned about the community as a whole. A large school like that is going to provide less opportunity for parents and families to be engaged, as smaller schools provide such an opportunity for contact and closeness in community. Construction noise is certainly going to be an issue. That will disturb particularly St. Francis students. Additionally, with this super school, I've made the comment before, none of our schools are falling down. All of them have been maintained continually, and they've constantly been upgraded over the years as regulations and needs require. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, you know, our district is thriving right now. And I'm concerned that by putting all of our eggs in one basket in one location, it could have a negative impact. Anyway, those are my comments, and I welcome the comments of the other trustees.
Any other comments? Mr. Mastel, did you have your hand up?
Nope, sorry.
Comment?
Yep.
I guess I've been sitting on this board for 10 years. And over the course of that time, I've become acquainted with many of the challenges our division faces. And I firmly believe that this project will alleviate many of these challenges is truly in the best interest of our division. I believe it will serve our Catholic community well going into the future. So I'm going to support the motion.
Yeah, I'm going to support the motion as well. And I'm not sure I agree with the comment driven by the Minister of Education. We went to her to talk about a theater and a sports, physical literacy space, and she came up with this plan as a solution. That's what she called it, was a solution plan, not a school plan, not anything else. It's a solution when you look at your utilization rates, when you look at the utilization rates of the schools and how we get, it's IMR money, right? And how we get that based on utilization. And she said many divisions around the province are looking at solution projects to try to bring, I guess, the money that you're going to get the best bang for your buck if you come up with these kinds of things. So that was her idea. But as far as being driven by the Minister of Education, I think it's more was driven by the Friends of McCoy than anybody else. David, you had your hand up.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. In summary, I think when I've reflected on this project, I think it without certitude, I think, look, this is what's best for the future of our division and our students over the next 40, 50 years. I recognize that there's no right and wrong here, and that there are different sides on various issues, and it can be controversial. So I want to recognize those points, but I think this is going to be a positive move in the long term for our district. Madam Chair, I really appreciate the last comment you made about the Friends of McCoy. Because, and I'm not going to go through the whole history here of the theater, the physical literacy space, and the new space for the football team in that initiative. I will say that knowing that history, it's a fallacy, it's not fair, it's kind of cheap, kind of easy to say, and it reflects people either not recognizing the history or just deciding to ignore it, to say we're only doing this because we want a theater. That's not correct. That's just not correct. Two things could be happening at the same time. The Friends of McCoy were looking for a theater and those other facilities at the same time the board was doing its capital plan. But the one was not necessitated by the other. In regards to consultation, I don't know who said it, but I think, well, I know a friend of mine who has experience in dealing with groups of people and consultation. You know, this individual stated to me the parents just don't come out like they used to. And I think we've made attempts for consultation. Yes, could there have been more? There could have been more. But I also want to say, because in my dealings with parents, I oftentimes share with them the procedures we have in the district for having your say at the board level. So just because we haven't had a lot of people call us, I haven't been called a lot about opposition to this project. I have had talks with some people, but it's just not a case of us. The perception, we haven't had a lot of consultation. We haven't had a lot of consultation come to us, a lot of opinion come to us regarding this project. I think it's unfair to say that the superintendent of schools, in addressing this issue with the school board, the parent groups, basically gave them an ultimatum saying, this is going to happen, so you better give us some input anyway. I think that's not the correct way to put that. My reflection back on what he said was, we hear you. The board is going in this direction. We'd like to have you at the table. That's the way I perceive that. I really appreciated Mr. Aberley's email. I met with Mr. Aberley to discuss his issues. We had an excellent meeting. I was able to clarify a number of things. I don't have his permission to share that stuff, but he expressed some reservations, and I appreciated that. I think an aspect that hasn't come up tonight, which is a factor in my mind, is the financial issue. Yes, these schools are well maintained, but as time goes on, they're all around the age of 60 years. It's going to cost more and more to maintain these buildings. Now, it's not the single issue that made up my mind, but it is one. And you might say, well, you know what, David, finance versus how kids are doing in a smaller school, that, you're making the wrong choice there. Fair enough, but it's a factor. It's a factor for me. In terms of parent involvement in this new school, and I've said this before in our private meeting, so I'm sorry, board members, I'm repeating myself, but the success of this school is going to be very much reliant on the success of any school. And what am I talking about? The leadership in that school, the principal, vice principal, and the teachers in that school. I don't like it when there is the suggestion, the hint, listen, a K-9 school, boom, it's going to be a bad school. You know what? Kids aren't going to be appreciated. Kids aren't going to be looked after. No. K-9 schools, K-8 schools, there are good K-8 schools. There are bad K-8 schools. There are really good elementary schools of less than 100. There are some bad ones. So it's just the success of a school is not necessarily dependent on the size of its student population. So to summarize where I started, when I look at all the factors, I think that this decision is in the best interest long-term of the students of Medicine Hat Catholic, and I'll vote in favor of the motion. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mestall?
Thanks, Chair. There are a couple of comments that I wanted to make, and one of them was already struck by David, so I'll point out to that one or speak to that one last. The idea of where to put the school really is kind of a no-brainer for me. I reject the notion that we could put it in Ranchlands. I reject the notion that we could have put it at the St. Mary's location or at the St. Michael's location or in Briar Run. One of the things that we looked at very carefully when we were looking at a new building and a theater was having it in close proximity to the high school so that there would be an easy I'll call it a commute, but an easy transfer of kids from McCoy to the theater. Putting the school anywhere else, of course, negates that. We're looking at transportation costs, which we have now with our theater ending up at the Esplanade or at the college. Those costs are expensive. We're looking at putting the new school in close proximity for a reason, and the theater is clearly one of them. The other thing I wanted to mention, and David talked about this already, is the financial impact of this. The three schools that are in question here, David's correct, they're 60 years old, 60 years plus. St. Mary's and St. Michael's weren't built with high quality materials in the first place. They're going to need modernizations. We have already talked about a modernization for St. Mary's. And those modernizations don't come cheap. Probably for St. Mary's, you're looking at $15 to $20 million and another 10 for each of the other two. When the minister talked about a solution based, I can't imagine that she wasn't thinking about that in addition. Plus, when you put up a new building, you're not going to have any maintenance costs in the new building for probably 10 to 15 years of any substantial amount, which is a cost saving. I also think that that the new school, in spite of the issues that were mentioned about loss of neighborhood schools and those sorts of things, far outweigh the new school. We only have to look at St. John Paul. There was opposition initially about St. Paul. We're losing our neighborhood school at St. Thomas. Those people who felt that way at the start came to be our biggest supporters by the time the program and the project was underway. And I can't help but think that this is going to be the same. So I too will support this motion, and I will support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mesa. Okay, any other comments, questions? All right, then let's vote on this motion. All in favor? 4. All opposed? 1. All right, let's move on.
Madam Chairman?
Sorry?
I know this is after the fact, Madam Chair, but I wanted to know if any trustees wanted to have that recorded as a recorded vote.
Does anybody want it as a recorded vote? Doesn't matter to me. Did you want it as a recorded vote?
I don't think it needs.
Okay. Mr. Mastel?
I would be in favor of a recorded vote.
I do.
Okay. All right, let's go on to 8.3. St. John Paul School Washroom Modular. And we have a motion here. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees for the Medicine Hat Catholic Board of Education accept the recommendation of FWBA Architects to enter into a stipulated price agreement with Wall Construction Limited for the washroom modular project in the amount of $328,444 plus GST. Would somebody like to move that, and then we can discuss it? Hey, Deacon Robert, any discussion or questions on this? Go ahead.
Where's the money coming from?
The money
Where's coming from?
it's coming from the province. So this is similar to the motion we made in September, where the province provides us with the money to construct and install the modulars. With this washroom modular, it's the same process, but we just need to have a formal motion to expend those funds.
That's the same as the one at Notre Dame, right?
Yep.
Yep, yeah. So where will it be? Will it be down the end where the modulars are now? Will this be there?
Yes, we made a space for it
Okay,
at.
'Cause that's where it's
at the very
needed.
end, and that's,
Yeah.
yeah, so there'll be a washroom kind of in the central part of the school. Washrooms at the
Yeah.
far end of the school.
good. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, we all vote then. All in favor? 5. Carried.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to committee reports. ATA, Mr. Mastel, negotiations.
Thanks, Madam Chair. We've had a discussion on this in the closed session, as it is a matter of labor issue. However, I do want to publicly thank our negotiating team, Trustee Leahy, Chief Deputy Superintendent Nick, and our Secretary Treasurer Greg, and back in the board in the consulting office, Superintendent Dwayne. We had 3 days of intense negotiations a couple of weeks ago. They struggled on a long time, and sometimes I thought we were talking about very minor issues, but at the end of the day, we came up with an agreement that I think is suitable for all of us. As a path forward, the ATA will be voting. Their members will be voting tomorrow for ratification. Excuse me, and the board has a special board meeting scheduled for Thursday at 6 p.m. to ratify. And it is going to be my recommendation, and I trust Trustee Leahy as well, that the board ratify that contract.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Mastel, and thank you as well as part of the negotiating committee.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? All right, QP, Deacon Robert.
Our division negotiating team will be meeting with formally meeting with the QP negotiating team this Thursday for our first meeting.
Good, thank you. TV, Teacher Board Advisory, Mr. Kinch.
Chair, we will be meeting for our first meeting of the year on the 24th.
Okay. Board Staff Board Advisory, Deacon Robert.
I don't have a formal report. We're waiting for the minutes of that meeting to be submitted. But I'll just give you an overview. We met on September 19th. There was a number of items discussed, which will be in the notes when we read it. But what we've done with that committee, we're kind of reorganizing that committee, restructuring it. So every school has a designated person that sits on the committee. So the room was full. We had a really good meeting, and so that way we'll have more participation, because in the past we just really struggling to get people to attend. So during our meeting, we kind of did an overview of our what do you call that?
Terms of reference.
Terms of reference, and then chair and secretary. Who were elected?
The new chair is Aaron Chenier, who's the librarian from St. Mary's School, and there's also a new secretary.
Yeah.
Tricia
So that'll be in the notes that we submit.
So this doesn't include QP people though, right? This is just people
This
who
is
are
just
the support staff that isn't QP.
Yes.
Great. Now I got that straight in my head. I don't know why I had that mixed up.
So we also have a subcommittee for the committee where
Right, for not negotiations,
Yeah.
but
For monetary.
great. Thanks, Robert. QP, support staff. Mr. Leahy?
Madam Chair, courtesy of Mr. McPherson, there is a memo attached, and we'll answer any questions if trustees have them. Thank you.
A student board advisory committee. That's me and Mr. Gale. And we just, Chuck and I didn't do anything last year just because of the circumstances of last year. But we would meet with the high school or the junior high and with that. So that's TV, buddy.
We'll read a meeting.
Okay. All right. Where am I at here? Audit committee. Mr. McPherson, you can have that one.
Sure, thanks. So there will be a motion that the Board of Trustees for the Medicine Hat Catholic Board of Education hold a regular meeting on November 27th, 2023 at 4 p.m. to accept and approve the financial statements. So that'll be the motion. With regards to the audit committee, we met with Mrs. Delane Sackman of MNP on October 4th to review the audit service plan and the engagement letter. The audit fieldwork will be commencing next week. The audit committee is planning on meeting with the auditor and administration on November 23rd to receive the draft audited financial statements and prepare a recommendation to the Board of Trustees for approval of the financial statements, which the motion would be to have that meeting on November 27th at 4 p.m. The basis for that date is there's already a board discussion meeting for that date, so we'll have a fixed time for end of that at 4 o'clock, which then would allow us to go straight into the regular board meeting. The audit committee, and this isn't part of the report, but the audit committee is looking at how to canvass and find public members to join the audit committee. There's a requirement for an additional 2 public members, so we'll be putting together a proposal on how to attract those public members.
I had a discussion with the controller of Big Marble Farms, and he completely changed the subject. So I wasn't very good at it. All right, so can I get someone to make this motion?
I'll leave it.
I'll make the motion.
Robert, and all in favor? All right, new school project planning committee. Dr. Zurich.
There will be a visioning meeting with our prime consultant for the new school build on October 17th at 7 p.m. at Holy Family Parish. And this will give an opportunity for staff, students, and parents to share what their vision for the school is, what they'd like to see be in the school, and that will inform the architect and his team, as well as Alberta Infrastructure, on their first initial design of the school. And in our discussions at our last DOT meeting, all of the principals of the schools involved have indicated that both staff and parents, and to some extent students, are very excited about the new build and what the possibilities are. There's been a lot of discussion. Trustee Leahy has shared some design ideas from staff on what lab space could look like and so on. So there's a lot of excitement now in the air about what that new building will look like and what we'll be able to offer students. So we're really excited to have this opportunity for input from the groups that are involved.
Good. Questions, comments? Okay, Alberta's ASBA, Mr. Mastel, Zone 6.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Nothing to report other than our next meeting is going to be a week from Thursday.
Okay. ACSTA, I have nothing to report there. Medicine Hat Catholic School Education Foundation, Mr. Kinch.
Thank you, Chair. We met on the 19th of September. There was an update and in essence a renaming. It's not a constitution, it's bylaws, and that was done to meet Alberta Society requirements. Currently, the Ed Foundation is looking for 2 directors, so if anybody is aware of anybody who might be interested. Also, the Ed Foundation is in a very positive financial position at this point, and we have a meeting subcommittee next week.
Thank you. Parent Association, you did it. I got these minutes this morning. I forwarded them to Chelsea and she put them in there. We just had our regular meeting on the end of September. It was, again, it's always a very positive meeting and they're always really glad everybody can get there. And if just Dwayne shares and then he says everything that I was going to say, so then I share a little bit. And
Maybe we should have to go.
no, or you go first. Anyway, it's just always really fun. I love it. So the minutes from the last meeting are there. And teacher employee TIBA, Mr. Masdell.
Yes, thank you. Our last meeting was a couple of weeks ago, September 21st. There was an announcement that Tammy Hinkle is the new vice chair, and I believe that she replaces Terry Harris, who is a trustee with Edmonton Catholic. The Pulse survey for last spring was discussed. 49 of 61 boards responded, and the results of that survey will be distributed shortly. Now that message came out a couple of weeks ago, so those may be out already. I haven't seen them, but Greg, does that sound familiar? Have you seen those?
I haven't seen them as of yet.
Okay. Anyway, they should be coming. Issues that were discussed were several. The costs, the distribution of members on the board was discussed that make up the TIBA board of directors. Consideration was given to north-south representation, urban and rural, public and separate. There were discussions about sick leaves and usage of medical and dental benefits under the sick leave of the collective agreements. There was also clarity sought with regard to language under personal leave. There was discussion regarding the importance of continuity with the instructions between rural and other boards. There was a discussion about who is family with regard to the sections of the contract that comes up to. Teacher time was discussed, the inflexibility that's available to small and rural schools. New issues that were discussed were subs and teacher shortages, and how pay and benefits, changes in pay and benefits may alleviate that. There's also discussion about the time it takes to get to grid. In some boards, it's up to 5 days, and in other boards, it's considerably less to get off the pay, off the sub pay benefit of the contract onto the grid. There was also discussion about administrators and administrative allowances. There's another TIBA bargaining survey that's coming out that is due on October the 16th. Collects data from teachers, school divisions, working conditions, leave of absence data, etc. There's a list of local and central matters is going to be discussed. And again, I want to say that apart from perhaps the TIBA board, and I haven't heard from them directly, there seems to be little optimism, or maybe that's the wrong word, little feeling that there's going to be any more local bargaining after this round that is just concluding. But TIBA has to, TIBA under their mandate has to go and begin the planning as if there's going to be. But many people believe that there's nothing really left to negotiate, and that will be coming to an end. The TIBA AGM, at which time the financial statement will be presented, will be held on November 21st at 1 p.m. And that is at the conclusion of the ASBA annual meeting, which is going to be in Edmonton in November, concluding earlier that morning. The next meeting for TIBA is going to be on October 24th. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end, unless anybody has any questions. Great, we'll go on to the Notre Dame Academy prayer. All right, we are adjourned. Not bad, 10-6.
Should we stand for discussion on our value? Is there still something to carry over? From our last, or maybe at the whole meeting?
No, we
Is there a
finished.
carryover?
We finished it.
Yeah, we're done.